All right, I got a challenge for you. You have to make an NPC that isn't terribly boring in less than 3 seconds. Ready? Go. Time's up. What'd you get? This is a terribly stressful thing, and this happens to all of us as Dungeon Masters every session, possibly. This could even happen multiple times in a session where you have to come up with an NPC on the fly, and who knows if it's going to turn into something really important or not. And in general, it's just very boring to encounter a very bland, lame NPC that's just normal guard, and sometimes those can find their place, but this system I have for you guys can also spice up PCs and player characters to be able to help them connect to their character and truly find an identity for their character that they can wrap themselves around and assimilate with. This is a new quick style video I'm trying out here to give you guys some quick tips to be able to help your games a whole lot. And I'm going to show you guys how I make this card that's on the back of every single one of my Dungeon Master screens. So I'm going to show you what that card is, how you can make it for yourself, and 3 essentials for any NPC I run that also work for PCs. So let's get right into it. So what is this card and how does it work? My Dungeon Master screen that I'm currently using right now has a new one of these on here. This is an old one that I'd already gone all the way through, and I needed to make another one, which takes very little time at all. All this is 2 things of the 3 total things that you need to be able to make an NPC. Both of these 2 things combined make up the NPC's persona, which is what I just in general call that. The first thing is a personality trait, and the second thing is a quirk. So I take an index card and make a simple D10 list all the way down, and I have the first thing be the personality trait. All this is basically a 1-word emotion that is just a little primer for me to role play that character. If I write happy, I'm going to role play that character very different than if I say grumpy. And even with just that 1 word, I can take an NPC that I don't know where to go with it and which direction to take it or how to interact with them. That 1 word helps give me a lot of direction and confidence whenever I'm role playing that character. And then the second thing is the quirk. This is sometimes you play up the quirk, sometimes you play down the quirk. It just depends. Sometimes the quirk is a physical characteristic, sometimes it's an emotional or mental one. It depends. And this is just something to give this NPC a little bit of flavor. So here's a close up of the card that you can see for yourself. And this is all it is. It's something super simple. I'm going to have an overlay of it right here so we can actually talk about it. The first one is sorrowful NPC that I can play in like very humble and like, oh, I'm so sorry for your troubles. And immediately there I just went into a little bit of an older person. So sorry for your troubles. And I might fluff my cheeks whenever I speak for them. We'll talk about voices later though. But this second level of this, the quirk, is they follow the code of the paladin. Now, is this character a paladin? Are they not a paladin? Are they faking to be a paladin? Are they secretly a warlock? Who knows? I just have this little thing follows the code of the paladin because maybe they're not a paladin and they're just some older person that believes in those values of the paladin. Or the second option down is polite and untrustworthy or unreliable. So they're very polite with the pleases and thank yous, but secretly, are they trustworthy? So maybe it's a front and this NPC has a front fake guise of some polite person that's actually untrustworthy. And again, these 2 things, these personality traits and this quirk are interchangeable. I could take any of those 10 things, shuffle them around and pair them up with any of the other ones. Sometimes you'd be surprised what interesting combos these 2 little things can fit together in. So now we're going to just look at the emotional trait here. Beautiful, envious, considerate, relaxed, cheerful, authoritative, quiet, or superstitious. And it's funny to see how old this card is because I don't even think beautiful is an appropriate word for an emotion anymore. Maybe you want to have that as some sort of quirk or characteristic, but even that's not that interesting if someone is being attractive. That's very basic type of thing. So in my future thing, in fact, I'll go ahead and talk about it right now. Everything I'm talking about here is part of my PC NPC creation system that I've fully fleshed out, turned into a PDF that is available on my website. This thing has gone through the ringer with revisions, and I have 2 different tables of a D100 names for you to pick and choose from, a D100 list of surnames, profession tables, and of course, these personality trait and the quirk table. Those are both D100 lists with 100 each of special and unique options to be able to make PCs and NPCs with. A lot of the things I do here in these videos is try and give you ideas to be able to spark and create and go and create your own stuff. But if you want to skip that entire step and let me do it for you, then that's what the PDFs on the website are for. I literally use this PDF in every single one of my session zeros whenever I do PC creation to help my players be able to get some unique characters and the personality traits and the quirks that they can roll on that D100 list, see what they got. And I give them 3 rolls and they can try and go for it. Or if they want to, they can really just pick from the table. It's just a tool to help spark that creativity for them as player characters, creating new characters, and for you as a Dungeon Master, creating your own too. And this is such a key and core component of what I do whenever I play D&D. I also put it into Alcander's Almanac of all things. Alcander's Almanac is my expansion to 5th edition, and it gets the the entire rule set of 5th edition of combat, social encounters, exploration, all pillars of the game to take and expand on the Dungeon Master's Guide and the core rulebook. This basically makes your own customized rule set for you that you can pick and choose from. It's available now on my website as well. This system is part of it. So now let's keep creating some NPCs. Back to this card now, we're looking back to the quirks. We have huge painful scar on their body. They're scarred in some way. Where is that scar? I don't know. I would come up with that on the fly. That's also a key part of this, is this is just a tone to set, and then you on the fly can see what fits best in that moment and run with it. Some other standouts on this list is very loud. That's not an emotional characteristic, but very loud could be just how I project and how they handle themselves, and it just dials that NPC up one notch. Claustrophobic may or may not even come into the picture, but maybe their workspace, and when they walk into this shop or this NPC, maybe everything's super wide and huge and everything's really far away and the shop looks really empty because they just don't want to feel claustrophobic. Or for the insomniac on the list, maybe the shopkeeper or whoever this is falling asleep or looks like they're about to fall asleep, or they just pass out and maybe they're narcoleptic and you want to dial that up even farther. Or maybe you want to dial it down and just have the insomniac thing. They just talk like this, and maybe they look stoned, and that's kind of where you run with it. So again, this list is very old, but it's just the idea of what I started this whole thing off with years ago as I'm refining this system, and now I've turned it into a whole PDF situation and have one on my screen, which I want to look at right now. You know what? Let's roll a D10 for this. Okay, I got a 4, and that is sly, and time is almost running out on their pact. So apparently this person is a warlock or have some sort of deal with the devil that they've made. And now it's a really interesting NPC or guard or whatever to just implant and put into the story. Maybe I want to play up that whole pact thing or not. Also on this campaign list that I have, I'm a little bit more specific. So whenever I make these tables and I roll on them or pick from them myself, whenever I'm making these things from these D100 tables, I do like to add a little bit of flavor and specific spice of what the current campaign is going on. Maybe introduce other factions, or maybe if there's a secret faction in your group, one of the other things on this list is a part of X group. So in the spirit of this on the fly video, I'm going to make a quick NPC from the D100 list of personality and D100 list of quirks and see what we get. So I got 81 on the personality traits for rowdy and unruly, and I got 91 for the quirks, which is pyromaniac. So if they're about to walk into a shop, maybe every single thing in the shop has a secret bag that it's wrapped up in, and before they hand off the bag, they light the bag on fire, and it's like the magician's magic paper burst of flames, and then there's your item inside. Or the rowdy and unruly thing could be like a fireworks type of thing, and they just really like to hype up things, and they try and upsell and add fireworks onto everything they're selling. Or maybe if they ask a guard for directions, they're talking with the guard, and the guard secretly, after they've done helping them, they pull them off to the side and be like, hey, you want to get crazy later? We got a bonfire that we're gonna, okay, and you get the idea. Now, I hope you're ready for this. These are the top 3 tips for whenever you're making NPC to keep in mind. Number 1 is make something obvious, external, and observable from this NPC off the get-go. And it's something that they can see that's noticeable and different and sets them apart. This could be that personality trait of the way that you're playing them, and they, oh, this person's very happy, or this person looks suspicious, something that's easily obvious. Or it could be their quirk, and they have something physically or emotionally that they're doing. Second thing is something not observable, the opposite of that, something internal or something suspicious, or there's some sort of twist or something going on that the players have to pay a little more attention to find out. Maybe that NPC's a pyromaniac and they want to keep that on the down low, and maybe certain questionings or certain topics are brought up, or if they talk to them for long enough, the NPC might give that information out. And then the third thing is the voice. You do want to do something different. Whenever I say voice, it could be your mannerisms. Maybe you sit up straight, maybe you slouch over, maybe you just talk a little bit in the back of your throat. You don't have to be a voice actor to do anything crazy. Let me know if you'd want to see a whole video on voices, because I have a whole bunch that I could say on that. But take these quirks of personality traits and just run with them. Even if it's something as simple as making a weird facial expression whenever you're talking, is this, I'm pretty much talking as the same person I just was, but just a little facial expression can just talk differently, and the people at the table can understand what you're doing. Even if it's just some weird face you're making, if they're talking to one NPC or the other one, they can tell. And I felt a little crazy doing that just now, but it's going to be helpful for your players. And if you've ever had the question, wait, who are you? Who am I talking to? This can help that a lot, just with how you sit, your face, and voices, which again, I could go on. And a bonus tip here, some sort of motive, aspiration, or goal that the NPC has. Usually I only think about these either afterwards, once the NPC is already created, and try and come up with one if it's one of the on the fly situations. But if it's any NPC that I am placing into the game, not because of some random thing that I need to do for my players, but if I ever introduce an NPC, especially if I know they're going to be in this campaign for longer, you have to give them some sort of driving force, motivation, or goal, even if it's small. So I hope this has sparked some inspiration on at least 2 things to add to these NPCs to make them a little bit more unique, and something to prepare. It only takes me about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to make this sheet, roll on this stuff, come up with stuff. Even if you don't pick up the tables and stuff from a website website and stuff and you want to make this for yourself, you totally can. A bunch of personality traits and a bunch of quirks. Spend some time making this thing. It's going to save you a lot of stress, and it's going to be a lot more fun to role play these NPCs, because now when my players go and ask some random guard, I'm like, ho. And also, I would say I don't always roll on it. Sometimes on the fly, I just look over and I'm like, oh, a considerate insomniac. Gotcha. And then over time, you can mark things off your list, make a new one, all that good stuff. So I hope this helps you stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.